Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. One of the biggest problems I have in my shop is organization. I pick up a tool or an item for a job, and I do the job, and then I don't necessarily need that tool or item every day, so I would, stick it in a drawer or a toolbox and promptly forget about it. And then 6 months or a year or whatever later, I would come up with another job I needed to do, and I think, well, I think I have something for that. And then I would spend, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever, looking for that item. And if I find it, well, first off, I wasted, that amount of time, which is really annoying. Or secondly, I can't find it because I have no idea where I put it, and I have to go and buy another one. And then sometime later, I find that I have 2 or 3 or 4 of these things because I keep, misplacing where they are. So over the years, I've tried various methods of organization. I've, labeled toolboxes, so I keep, the mostly used tools in one, and, various other aspects like that. And then, of course, I would label drawers, and sometimes I've tried to keep a bit of a log, so this drawer contains whatever. I never really was very good at that, so I would end up again getting busy and then just not doing it, and then, of course, misplacing things. Most recently, what I've done is, as I saw in the beginning of this video, is I've been making drawers that are made out of acrylic. And I find that as actually the best way for me to keep organized, because I just have to look at the front of it and I know what kind of tool or item is in there, and I'm actually really happy with that. So what I want to do here today is I want to extend my screw keeping and bolt keeping storage stuff, because I really do like that carrying case that I made that I put in my vehicle, and it does hold a lot. Unfortunately, in some ways it holds too much because it gets really quite heavy. I need some storage for the rest of the stuff that I don't need every day, because with what I'm doing now with condo repairs, I pick up an awful lot of odd screws and stuff that can be useful and will be useful at some point in time. And I don't really want to end up having to buy way too much of anything specific, so I want to have an easy access storage that's going to do 2 things for me. First off, store all the extra stuff that I just don't want to carry around every day. And the other thing is, when I buy like a pack of screws for something that I use a lot of, it's a couple hundred of them sometimes. And, well, when you have enough of those together, they get quite heavy. And that that screw case, does get very heavy from time to time, and I would like to be able to divide that up into different things. And this way I can have easily visible access to all the different screws and bolts and everything else that I have, and I don't have to carry it all around with me. So what I'm doing here today is I'm building the casing for this. I've done this a number of times. At the beginning of the video when you saw those drawers, this is the exact same method I use. I'm using 1/4 inch Baltic birch plywood here, and I'm doing some rabbet joints on them, and I'm going to make, well, probably a number of these things in the long run, but for the moment I'm going to make 2. And what I'm going to do is each of them is going to have 3 chambers, and I'm going to make acrylic drawers for those chambers, which will be in the next video. So I do want to talk a little bit more about welding acrylic. There seems to be a fair amount of interest in that sort of thing, and there's a couple extra details that I didn't quite get to in the first couple of videos I did on that. So what I've done here so far is I cut the rabbets for the ends. That's a simple matter of setting the height of the blade to halfway through the 1/4 inch ply, and then setting the stop at 1/4 inch, and make the first pass, and then gradually move the piece out and make more passes until you complete the rabbet. And then what I did is I set the stop for the first divider, which is going to be on the inside. It's symmetrical, so I don't have to worry about which side I'm cutting first. And then I make the first pass, and then I reset the stop to the second position for that, which is going to be a 1/4 inch, but a 1/4 inch from the other side of the blade. You have to be very careful when you do that. Otherwise you're going to end up with an extra blade thickness in the cut. It's going to be kind of sloppy. Then with a nice tight fit like this, you can see that I don't have a flat bottom cutting blade there, but that just means making a couple extra passes just to even it a little bit. And I made a whole pile of these so far, so I haven't had any issues with any of them falling apart, and some of them are holding quite a bit of weight. I'm actually really quite happy with this style of working with 1/4 inch ply. It does make a great storage system, and like I said, I haven't had any issues whatsoever with it. So I'm just going to finish cutting these up, and then all I need to do is glue it all together. And that's really straightforward. The only problem I find with it is you have to wait overnight to make sure it's nice and solid. That's the nice thing about working with acrylic. You don't really have to worry about the setup time. As soon as you finish the weld, well, give or take a few seconds of course, it's done. You can move it aside and you can work on the next one. I find I can assembly line quite a few more acrylic projects than I can wood because, well, I have very limited space, so I don't really have enough room to set all these up, clamp them, or in my case tape them, and then have them cure and be able to do more than say about 2 or 3 at most at any given moment. Whereas I did all 6 of the drawers for this in one go. One thing that glue has over the welding for the acrylic though is it's more forgiving. If I make a bit of a mistake, it's not quite aligned, I have a lot more time to set it up and put it where I want it to, and that's to say I get it all together and I don't quite like the way it looks, I can still pull it all apart and then reset it all. Whereas with once the methylene chloride has evaporated, it's solid. You have maybe 10-15 seconds where you can work on it. Well, sorry, that's not quite right. You have a few seconds, and then if you made a mistake, you have another 10 seconds where you can get the joint apart and then re-weld it. It doesn't look as nice, of course, but you can have a bit of a grace period as far as that goes. Whereas this here, I can fiddle with this for 10 or 15 minutes, no problem at all. Getting it to where I want it to be. It doesn't, of course, do the joint a whole lot of good, but you do have that bit more forgiveness. But as you can see, it goes together really nice and very easy. Like I said, it's my favorite way of joining this type of material together. It's quick, it's simple, and you can make all kinds of storage systems for this sort of thing. So what I'm going to do here is turn this up, and then most of the taping I'm going to do off camera. It's not a hard process really. The only downside to tape sometimes, you're going to see here in a few seconds, I try to store my tape so the edges don't get nicked. But as you can see here, every now and then, regardless of how careful you are with it, it gets to the point where it just peels the wrong way, and it took a few seconds here to get the right amount of tape off here and set it up. I suppose I could make some clamps for this, but unfortunately, well, I do intend on making more clamps. I don't really want to buy a whole pile of them because I don't really need them that much, and I find this works really quite well. And anyway, maybe it'll be a project for later on. For now, tape works really quite well, and it's forgiving in the sense that I'm not really going to show it here because I'm only showing the first part of the taping, but when I was gluing these up, I found that because I don't have any lateral support for this, it was a little skewed, it wasn't quite square. So what I did was I took the tape 1/4 to the opposite corner, and then that ended up with it squaring up quite nicely. So this is the next day. It's all nice and set now, and all I need to do is remove the tape. And of course the next step of this is to cut the acrylic and weld all that together. That'll be in the next video. Also, of course, I need to sand this down and put an oil finish on the outside. So anyway, it's getting there, and I think it's going to look really quite nice. There's a few other details, but I'm going to get to those in the next video. So thanks very much for watching. The end clip here is going to give you a sneak peek of what not quite the final product, but what these are all going to look like with a couple of the drawers in place. And anyways, so tune in next to the video and leave comments. Let me know what you think about all this, and I'll see you in the next video, and bye for now.